Okay, good to everybody. We're beginning Masechta Chulin. Very exciting time for us. You give hakdamas to Masechtas. It's it's interesting because we all know what shechita is. We all know where shechita is, but in fact, it's it's really doesn't say anything in the Torah about shechita except one place. So here's your source for shechita, guys. Here's your source for shechita is the pasuk in Devarim. Pasuk state, you're a distance away from the base of Mikdash, and you can't bring a carbon, and you want to eat meat. The lashon vizavachta. Now, the lashon vizavachta means shechting. That's what we teach you. It means shechting. However, there is no place in the Torah proper that tells us how to shecht or where to shecht. Guys, you hear? There's no place in the Torah that tells us where to shecht and how to shecht. All halacha l'Moshe Sinai. Shchita and the Malkam Shchita is halacha Moshe Sinai. In fact, there's a medrash. You know the three things HaKadosh Baruch Hu, the coin, the menorah. He had to be shown these things. He had to be shown also as a medrash. V'yesh oimrim, even the Malkam Shchita. V'yesh oimrim, afilu the Malkam Shchita. He had to. So I'm just going to give two terms tonight. So because we need them for the daf, one in general and then more specific. So without going through a tremendous amount of information, we have the pasuk we just described, and we have two terms that we're going to throughout the Masechta, the kana and the veshet. The kana is known in English as the trachea or the windpipe. The veshet is known as the esophagus and the food pipe. Shchita is shechting roiv of one of these, roiv of both of them. You need a majority of both. That's the halacha Moshe Sinai. In a bird, only one. You only need one. You only need one. There are 5 psulim that pasel halacha Moshe Sinai, and we need this for tonight's daf. There are 5 psulim, and again, if you don't get it first time around, don't worry about it. Shehiyah means to delay. That the shaychit delays. He stops the process and he delays a certain period of time. We'll see. Drasa is doras. He goes instead of going back and forth, severing the kana and the veshet. He pushes it. He pushes a knife into it. Chalada is the knife gets hidden between the two simanim. In other words, the knife is inserted between the two simanim, and even if he shechs one and the other, you have to shech one going straight through. Between the two, chalada lashon hidden. Hagrama is he shechs chutz l'makam hashchita. He could even begin in the makam hashchita, but he ends up in shloim machatzita. And ikar is he pulls. It could be there's a nick in the knife and it pulls. It can pull out the whole thing, or it can be pull on the thing on the pipes. So shahir delays, drasa pushes the knife. Chalada hides like a chulda, like a weasel hides. Hagrama is the wrong makom, and ikar. These are 5 halacha Moshe Sinai's that passel. These are the 5 halacha Moshe Sinai's that passel. Now the daf itself is very much a pshat daf. In other words, somebody asked me, do I need my sichas chulin? You don't need your sichas chulin for the first 2 dafim, for sure not. You don't need it because it's very much a pshat in the Mishnah, because the Mishnah itself is difficult. We're going to have 6 pshatim in the Mishnah. We're going to have 6 pshat in the Mishnah, and I have a 30-year-old chart, a 33-year-old chart, Be'ez Hashem, that's going to bring it home. Okay? So wish everyone had slacha. Fellas, we're in this until September, the middle of September. This is a long Masechta, 141 blot, and Be'ez Hashem, Siyat D'Shmaya. Everyone begins, we should all finish. Let's hear an amen, even though I can't hear you. Okay, anyway. Says the Mishnah. Okay, says the Mishnah, Hakol sheichten. Anyone can shecht. Anyone can shecht. Ushchitasan kshera. And if they do shecht, the shchita is kasha. We're going to go back over this. This is the whole daf, guys. We'll go back over in a second. Chutz, who can't shecht? Mecheresh sheita v'katan. Cheresh, somebody who's a cheresh, is a fool. He's a person who doesn't have his kalim. Shaita, no, Cherish can't hear, excuse me, Cherish can't hear or can't speak. Shaita is a person who is not there, and cotton. Why? Shemi Yukilkalu. Perhaps these three will be Makalkal. So anyone can shecht, and if they do shecht, it's kasha, and a Cheresh Shaitiv can't. The Kulun Shemi Kilchu Eshchit Hasan, they'll go ahead and they'll be Makalkal the Shchita. They'll go ahead and they'll be Makalkal the Shchita. The Kulon and all of them, the Gemara is going to go ahead and find out who is this referring to. The Kulon and all of them, who's that referring to? Right? Sheshachtu that do shecht, v'achayim rayin I and other people see him. Shchitasim kshera, the shchita is kasha. Okay, so now let's go back to the beginning of the Mishnah. Hakol sheichtim, anyone can shecht. Anyone can shecht, meaning, is that lashon lechatchila b'di'eved? I say it's a lashon lechatchila. Lechatchila, anyone can shecht. Lechatchila, anyone can shecht. That's what it's mashma. However, if they do shecht, ushchitasim kshera. That's a lashon b'di'eved. Guys, you have to hear the kasha. If you don't hear the kasha, the Gemara is going to make no sense. When you said hakol sheich, then it's mashma a lashon of lechatchila. Anyone can shecht. And then you say, oh, by the way, if they do shecht, it works. By the way, is a lashon of b'di'eved, right? It's not a lashon of lechatchila. Ushchitasim, and if they do shecht, what do you mean if they do shecht? They can shecht. If they do shecht, it's mashma they shouldn't shecht, right, guys? And they should, right? And if they shecht, I mean if they can. But if they, so therefore that's the problem in the Gemara. The main thing, the main issue for the next two dafim is how to explain the difference and work it out. Shchita, who's we speaking about lechatchila, and who's the b'di'eved, and the rest of the Mishnah, how it all fits in. Okay? That. Now, the Gemara is going to ask the kasha, and then the Gemara is going to ask, every time is hakol a lashon of lechatchila, maybe it means b'di'eved, and it's not a kasha in the first place. Says the Gemara, hakol shoichdin, which is mashma, what? Lechatchila. Everyone can shecht, right? Ushchitasim ksheira. And if they do shecht, it's kasha, di'eved. So how do you explain the two? How do you explain the two? One is mashma lechatchila, the other one is mashma di'eved. Amalei Rav Acha Berei the Rava Ravashi says Rav Acha Berei the Rava Ravashi. B'chol hakol lechatchila who? In other words, what's your kasha? Your kasha is predicated on understanding when you say hakol is lechatchila. Every time you use hakol is lechatchila. So now the Gemara digresses, and we have to know a few dinim. First of all, the din of Tamura. Right? The din of Tamura is a person goes ahead, he has an animal of kachim, and he has an animal chulin, and he says zu kizu. It's an aveira. He's not allowed to do it. But if he does it, it works. He's not allowed to do it, but if he does it, it works. So by the way, Derech Agav, there's a beautiful, the last Rambam in Hilchas Tamura, guys, look it up. It's a tremendous, I'm giving you a tremendous marmakan. The last Rambam in Hilchas Tamura. Basically, he says that a guy went ahead, he gave a real fat animal, and he changed his mind. So what does he want to do? He wants to take the kedusha off that animal and put on a lesser animal. And therefore, the Torah constants him, not only didn't you take it off, but they're both Kaddish now. And he goes on to explain, it's very, very beautiful. Go, look it up, it's very geschmack. So in other words, fellas, in this case, by Tamura, if it's an Aveira, guys get Malchus for it. You're going to tell me, Hakol Mimirin, anyone can make a Tamura, it's Lashon B'Chatchila? Fred the Gemara Kasha, right? Elamayata, if you're telling me the Lashon of Hakol always means L'Chatchila, Hakol Mimirin, anyone can make a Tamura, Echad Anoshim, whether it's men, V'Echad Anoshim, whether it's women, Hachanami L'Chatchila, who? Would you go ahead and dream to say the Lashon of Hakol is L'Chatchila? V'Kasiv, it says, Lo Yachlifenev, Lo Yomer Isai. Toiv biro, rabbi toiv. You know, an animal that's not a balmum, an animal that is a balmum. You can't do it. Don't do it. But if you do it, it works. So l'chayra, guys, what do you mean? Hakol l'chatchila. How do you call l'chatchila? Says the Gemara, it's not a kasha. Really, hakol is l'chatchila. And I'll tell you why there it's not. Hasam kediktani taima. Like it says the reason. Loisha adam mishoy lahamir. When it says hakol, the Mishnah, the same Mishnah that says Hakol, you know what it says in it? Not that a person has a right to do it, meaning the Mishnah is telling you that Hakol is not Lichatchila. The Mishnah, guys, the Lashon over the Mishnah, Loisha Adam Rashoy Lahamir, not that a person has a right to make a Tamura, Elashim hamem muma v'soifikas abayim. You get 40. Actually, you can get 80. But guys, you hear? Really, hakol is lechatchila. You're asking from Tamura? The reason why a kol by Tamura is not lechatchila, because the Mishnah itself tells you it's not lechatchila. If not that you have rishus to do it, the Mishnah is telling you you don't have rishus to do it. Why don't you have rishus to do it? Because it's an aveira. So in other words, our kasha is still intact. Our kasha is still intact. Hakol means lechatchila, and if it does, why do you mean shchitas and kshera? Ella. Okay, guys, a parsha outside. Parsha of Erchin at the end of Sefer Vayikra. We have a parsha of Erchin, depending on a person's age. If a person says Erki Olai, the worth of that individual is upon me. After he's 30 days old, right? He has a worth. But it's irrelevant of his health. So you can have a 20-year-old, really super healthy guy, and a 20-year-old that is mamish gekrachin and sebrachin, and you say Erki Alai, it doesn't make a difference. If he's aged 20 to so, that's your price. In other words, it doesn't make a difference. If he says Demei Alai, then it depends upon his value in the slave market. Then it's going to go according to the individual. So Erchin is a lashon of what? Age, and then it's a set amount based upon the age of the Torah. And Demei is the worth of the person. Now, it says over there in that Mishnah, Ela hakol marichin v'ne'arachim. Marichin, anyone can make the neder of Erki Olai. V'ne'arachim, the nun, they can be the subject of the neder. Guys like the masik and the nizik. The masik is the one doing the action. The nizik is the one it's happening to. So the ne'arach is the one. So you're saying anyone can be the source, no matter who the person. Erki Olai. Noidrin, they can make a neder to give X amount. This is the may, guys. So anyone can make the neder of the may. Darin, and anyone can be the subject of the neder. Now, so it's mashma. You're going to tell me that means lichatchila. Lichatchila, a person should make erchin. Lichatchila, a person should go ahead and say demei. So you're telling me that a person should lichatchila make nedarim to make a nedava of tzedakah, right? To make a neder of tzedakah. You're telling me lichatchila should do that? Hachanami de lichatchila. Again, we want to go ahead and break the kasha of our Mishnah, saying hakol does not mean lechatchila. So I'll show you another Mishnah in Shas where Tmura we challenged and we survived. Now we're asking from Erchin. We're asking, what about Erchin? Erchin, you're going to tell me you're going to make a neder? V'ksiv v'chisechta lindar la'yeh b'chachet. Don't stop making a neder. You won't have a chet. Uksiv toiva sheloi sidar. Better not to make a neder. Mishetida v'loy teshalim. So he brings a pasuk from Devarim, and he brings a pasuk from Koheles. Let's see Taisus. Toiv mizeh mizeh sheinu noidu kolika. Pierce a contrast the elmine ksiv. Esa shetida shalem. It says first. It says Esa shetida shalem. Vafilu hachi toiva sheloi sidar. In other words, if you make a neder, pay up. Better not make a neder at all. The kosher ben otam. Okay, this is not the Taisus I wanted. Okay, anyway. We have time, we'll go back to Taisus. Anyway, like this, guys. So you're bringing one pasuk and it's telling me that what? That you should make an eder. Better not to make an eder. Now, Rabbi Yehuda says, this. So Rabbi, it says, if you make an eder, pay up. But better not make the eder in the first place. That's Reb Meir. What is the type and says Toiv mizeh v'sheinu noidu kolika. Div Reb Meir, Reb Yehuda Aimer, Toiv mizeh u'mizeh noidu mishalem. Go ahead and make a neder, and you know what? You know what's better than making a neder than paying up? The lashon of Reb Yehuda last Rashi, the hachi mashma. Toiv asher lo sidar. Better not to make a neder mishatida v'lo teshalem than to make it and not pay up. Aval mishatida, when you make the neder with the shalem, lo yishahu toiv mikulam. That's the best. It's not good to make a neder and not pay up, but the best thing is to make a neder and pay up. And okay, so what's the kasha? Continues the Gemara. Says, V'afil Rabbi Yehuda says it's good to make a neder like Hamay Elaboima Harizu. You say the lashon of nedava that it's going on. Guys, we just finished kachim, right? Harizu, this particular animal versus Harei Alai on me. Aval Oima Harei Alai loy, right? If you say Harei Alai loy, so in other words, if you say Harei Alai, it's not good. So you chayra, you have a kasha. You see that what? From you're telling me that erchin, you're telling me that it's a lotion of lichatchila. How can you tell me it's lichatchila? It's not good to make an eder. So we have a kasher on our Mishnah. Says the Gemara, v'chol hakol lav lichatchilahu. You're telling me every hakol is not? What about? Notice we're going through Shas and looking at the hakols. So now you got a kasha. You told me hakol's lichatchila by shchita. I have a kol by erchin saying it's b'di'evet. Better not to make it. But 1 second, I got another hakol. What does it say? El hakol chayavim b'sukkah. Hakol chayavim b'tzitzis. Hachanami delav lechatchila. Guys, we all know you got to sit in the sukkah. We only got to wear tzitzis, right? You got to do this. So says the Gemara, chayavim loy ka'amina. Chayavim, I didn't mean. Meaning, if it says I call chayavim, I'm masking that what it means. I'm masking that it means what? I'm masking that it means lechatchila. So far, I got a kasha from Erchin. Continues the Gemara, Elamayata, Hakol Soimchin, Echad Anoshim. Now take Anoshim. We know women can't do smicha, guys, right? From Masech, we know that. Ela Hakol Soimchim, Echad Anoshim, Hachanami de Lav Lechatchila. You're going to tell me that what? It's not Lechatchila? V'kasiv v'samach yoida v'nirtza. Again, we know from our Tzvachim days and our Menachos days, you do smicha and it's merutza, the carbon's accepted. In, says the Gemara, Ika hakol lechatchila, v'ika hakol di'eved. Good. In other words, I have to be masking. I'm asking a kasha. I have a kasha from Erchin. You have a proof from what? From smicha, that lechatchila. B'di'eved, hakol marichin is b'di'eved. Hakol smicha is what is lechatchila. I assume hakol shoichtim. Now, in order to avoid the question, you're going to have to tell me it's b'di'eved, or else you have a kasha. Continues the Gemara. Ela hakol dehacha mimaydil chatchilahu de tikshalach dilma di'eved hu v'loy tikshalach. Look back at the Mishnah. What? Let's look back at the Gemara. The Mishnah begins. Hakol shoichtim shchitasim k'sheira. Fred the Gemara. Hakol shoichtim is a lashon of lechatchila. Shchitasim k'sheira is a lashon b'di'eved. Fred the Gemara, I have an hakol backing me up that is b'di'eved. I have a kol marichin. So why do you assume it's a kol like smicha that it's lechatchila? Maybe it's b'di'eved and it's not a kasha. Maybe b'di'eved it's not a kasha. So guys, look at the way you'd have to read the Mishnah now. Watch. Hakol sheichtin b'di'eved everyone can shecht. Ushchitashim k'sheira and b'di'eved it's kasha. Why would you have to repeat it? Guys, Bishleim, if you tell me Hakol Shoichnim is what? Is Lechatchila. There's a chiddush to tell me some way Shchitas and Kashera is B'di'eved. But if you're telling me Hakol Shoichnim B'di'eved, anyone can shecht, why is it necessary to repeat Ushchitas and Kashera and B'di'eved it's kasha? What are you telling me? It's repetitious, you hear? That's how I knew that Hakol was Lechatchila. That's how I knew it was a good kasha. That's how I knew it was a good kasha. Okay, now who's answering this? Rav Ashi is answering this. The conversation is taking place between Rav Acha B'rei the Rava and Rav Ashi. Okay, so continues the Gemara. One more time the kasha. Says the Gemara, Ela hakol dehacha memaydil chatchilahu. How do you know the hakol shoitim of here is the chatchila? The tikshilach that you should ask the question. Dilma di'eved hu. Maybe it's a lashon b'di'eved. It's not a kasha. So Amalei, so said Rav Ashi, Anoshki Tosa Kshera Kashali. I guess this is Rav Acha talking. This is Midiktani Shchitasim Kshera, the Eved, Michaldo Hakol Lechatchilahu. The Eved, Tati the Eved Lamalei. Why would you need what? To be the Eved? Why would I need to? Now, who said this? Amalei, Rav Ashi said it. L'chai Rav Ashi said it. Anoshki Tosa Kashera Kashali. Now, it's a very, very strange Gemara. Rabbi Ashi is the one who asked Rav Acha, and he's saying Anoka Kasha. He's answering his own kasha. Guys, Rav Ashi is asking Rav Acha, and Rav Ashi is answering his own kasha. No one asked it to him. Look at very important Taisus here. The second Taisus. Anoshki Tosa Kashera Kashali. Mashma Sherav Ashi hikshaisa kushya. Mashma he asked the kasha. V'afa pisha he sugyas haGemara. It's just the Gemara flow, guys. No one asked this. When we can raya Sherav Ashi see the haGemara, right? In Mekan you have a raya that Rav Ashi was Masada the Gemara. Rav Ashi, I know Kashli. When I wrote this, he's asking on himself. It's Yisoidis. This is a raya that Rav Ashi went ahead, and since he's asking, Anoka Kashli, no one asked it. He's the one. The Gemara is asking it. Who's the Gemara? Anoka Kashli. I Rav Ashi. I'm the Gemara. I'm the Gemara. I'm the one who asks it. Geshmak is anything. Okay, so we need a pshat now. So now, what have we done until now? We've substantiated the kasha. The hakol shoichlin is lechatchila, and shchitasa kasher is b'di'eved. Because if hakol was b'di'eved, you'd have a b'di'eved, it wouldn't begin. So now we have to go ahead and begin answering. This is the first of 6 terutzim to answer how the flow of the Mishnah goes. See, that's what I told you. There's nothing to do right now with shchita or anything. It has to do with how the Mishnah goes. The only thing you have to know is those 5 things. You have to know shehiyah, drasa, ikar, chalada, and hagrama. We have to know those 5 things. Okay, now, says the Gemara. So first attempt. First attempt. Amar Rabba Barula, hachi katani. Here's Peshat in the Mishnah. Hakol sheichten. Anyone can shecht. Anyone can shecht. Va'afilu tamei b'chulin. Even a person is tamei, he can shecht chulin. You'll ask, guys, I just finished Masechta Kachim. I know Tumah is only by Kachim. There's no Tumah by Chulin. There's no Tumah by Chulin. Guys, this is Masechta Chulin. We're dealing with regular animals. We're not dealing with karbanis. So if you're Tameh, you should be able to shech a carbon. So what do you mean anyone who's Tameh can shech Chulin? Fred the Gemara, Tameh v'Chulin ma'ila memra. What's your chiddush? Says the Gemara, b'Chulin shenasa al taras hakodesh. We're speaking about people who treat their chulin like kachim. People who, you know what they do? They're makbid in their chulin, so when it comes to korbanis, there won't come any problem. We know eating a korban b'tumah is in this sakaris. It's not a good thing. So in order as a siyog to go ahead and avoid that, what would they do? They would treat their chulin ataris hakodesh. I'll bring you a raya to this, guys. I'll bring you a raya, 2 rayas actually. Avram Avinu tells Sarah to go ahead and prepare shleisha sim kemach lushi vasi ugais. And then when it came to serving, he didn't serve it. Why? Sarah was pirsanida, and she was tama the isa. What does that mean? It's chulin. It's chulin. Eliyasi Avram Avinu was what? Was makbid to eat his chulin. The machlokes whether truma or kachim, but he treated it with a certain level of kedusha. By shol macha chodesh, what happens? He doesn't come one day. What does shol say? Maybe he was tamei. He was not eating kachim. He was eating chulin. You see that shol treated his chulin al tyrus hakodesh, guys. 2 nice rayas. Okay, 2 nice rayas. So this person is makbid to treat his chulin like kachim. And what are we worried about? Even though he's tamei, he could shecht. Even though he's tamei, he could shecht. So that's the pshat. Hakol sheichtin, va'afilu person that's tamei and is makbid eat the school in al tyrus hakodesh. Ukesav v'chulin shnas al tyrus hakodesh ki kodesh tamei. It's like kodesh. Keitzeru oiseh. What should he do to avoid any problem? Maybe sakin arucha. Bring a long knife. V'sheichit ba and shech with that knife. Kidei shlo yiga b'basa, to avoid touching the basa. Because then he'd be mitama the basa. We're going to have a problem. What about the knife? Guys, isn't he mitama the knife? If he's tamei, we'll get to that, okay? However, when it comes to kodesh, to karbanis, lo yishchait. If he's tamei, he should nachshech. Shema yiga b'basar, lest he touch the basar. V'im shachat, and if he does shech by kachim, v'yomer, and he says, borali, I'm sure, Chulin Nagati, that I didn't touch it. Shchitas like a. So guys, here's the Mishnah. Go back to the Mishnah. Hakol sheichten. Who is that? Lechatchila, a person who's makbid to eat his kachim al tyrus hakodesh can shecht. However, if he's eating kachim, he should not shecht. Right? He should not shecht shema yigar basar. What happens if he does shecht and he says for sure I didn't touch it? Shchitasan kshera, that's shchitas kasha. This is the way Rabbi Barula is answering what? The kasha. Guys, you see, we're fitting it in like a puzzle. We're fitting it in. We're fitting it in. So the first hakol shoichdin is chulin al tayus hakodesh, but it's kashim not. However, if he's sure that he did shchitasan kshera, even though b'diavad he shouldn't have done it. That's so far. Continues the Mishnah. Chutz micheres shoyte v'katan. Except the Sheresh Shaitan V'Katan, the Afila B'Chulin Greda the Eved Namiloi, even regular Chulin, they shouldn't shecht because they don't know. Shema Yishaya, maybe they will be over on Shehiyah, the first of the five. Shema Yidrisu, maybe they'll do Hadrasa. V'Shema Yachlidu, maybe they'll hide the knife. And you're asking yourselves, why does the Gemara leave out the other two, Hagrama and Ikur? Says Taisvos, the third Taisus in the bottom. Shema Yishu Ulahagrama Ve'ikoloi Chashinan. What about saying the other two are not Chayish? The Minkar, you'll be able to figure it out. You'll be able to see whether, guys, if it went out of the Makam or if there was Iko, you'll be able to see it. If the pipe was ripped away or the Makam Shchita, so therefore the other three are at the B'Shas Maisa that you wouldn't know. The other ones you would know. So therefore it says Taisus Kishmak. We only said those three, not the other two. The other two would be Hagrama from the Chutz L'Makayim and Iko, which you'll be able to tell you after the fact. Okay, so the Chutz Shesher Kohen Afilu B'Chol Gredi Avin Namilach Shema Yisha Shema Yishzaminu the Chulin Sheshachtu. Now, when it says Chulin Sheshachtu, what's going on? Okay, so let's see the Mishnah so far. Back to the Mishnah. Hakol Shoichdin Chulin Al Taris HaKodesh, and not by Kotchim. However, b'diavad, if they do it and they're sure that they didn't they didn't touch it, shitas v'seira chutz micheres shayte v'katan, by what? By a regular chulin. Shemi yikanklu is b'shchitasam through shehiyah, trasa, and chalada. Now, what about the chulin sheshachtu? The rest of the Mishnah, the chulin sheshachtu b'acheim royin. I said, what's that going on? Is it going back in cheres shayte v'katan? Guys, it should say v'im shachtu. Guys, if it's flowing along, but listen, guys, look back to the Mishnah. If you stick it in the Mishnah, it's going to shmak. So now, except cheres shayte v'katan, they might mix it up. Shemi yakalkul b'shchitasan because of the now. If it's going on cheres shayte v'katan, it should say v'im shachtu. And if the cheres shayte v'katan did shecht, v'acherim rayin I say, then shchitasan k'sheira. But it doesn't say that. It says v'kulan. So it's mashma, it's not going back on cheres shayte v'katan. Back in the Gemara. The kulin sheshachto ahei. What is the kulin sheshachto going on? Ilema acheresh shayte v'katan alakoi v'im shachnu miboile. And if they shecht, I should say. So therefore, it's not going. Gemara Rashi learns later on Yud Beis. It's not only going on them. It is going on them, but not only going on them. Ella atame bechulin. It's going on the tame bechulin. That, and if other people see them, it's okay. But one second, it's lechatchiler okay. Why do you need other people to see them? That's not called shaychdin. Ella atame bechulin ha'amir lechatchiler nami shachot. It can't be going on that. Ella atame b'mikdashim. It's going back on tame b'mikdashim. Says the Gemara, Bibarili Sagi. He said it's enough that I didn't touch it. Says the Gemara, the lesser kamon than the shale. Right? It's not in front of us what to ask. Go back to the Mishnah. I'm gonna stick it in the Mishnah and then I'll show you on the chart. Okay? It's in the Mishnah. Rabbi Baruch. Guys, I'm going over and over and over again because you're gonna have this until Gimel Amid Beis. The Gemara is be sticking in pshat in the Mishnah. We're gonna have 6 different pshatim in this sticking in the Mishnah. So I've seen repetitious, but that's why I get paid the big bucks. Now, hakol shaychdin. Hakol shaychdin meaning a person who's makbid to eat chulin al taris hakodesh. If the person's tamei lechatchila, he could shecht using a long knife. However, if it's kachim, he can't shecht using a long knife. B'di'evet. But if he shechs and he says, I know for sure I didn't touch it, shchitas and kshera, the shchitas kasha. Chutz micheres shayte v'katan, that even regular chulin they can't shecht, Shema Yikalklu Bishchitasan, maybe they'll be over on 3 of the 5 things. The Chulin, now it can't be going back on the Tameh, because Lechatchil he could shech. It's going back on the Tameh that shechs kachim. The Chulin sheshachtu, v'acherim royin oisay shchitasim k'sheira. And a person observed the person that's Tameh, shechting kachim, and knows he didn't touch it, right? She's talking shit. Fred the Gemara, why do you need another person? Just the guy said borrowly. He said, says the Gemara, he's not around to ask. He's not around to ask. So in a scenario when he's not around to ask, that's it. That's the Mishnah. That's the Mishnah. Okay. Now the Gemara is going to just fine-tune a few things. Okay. Tonight we're going to go through this Shita. We're going to conclude it on the top of Gimel Amid Aleph. And tomorrow, Bes Hashem, we'll see the other 5 Shitas, how to explain the Mishnah. Okay. Now the Gemara asks the following. This person's Tameh, right? Says the Gemara, Hi Tameh b'mikdoshim mehachanafka. You learn that from this Mishnah? That you learn that from this Mishnah? Mehasam nafka. It's a Mishnah we did in Zvachim, right? It's a Mishnah we did in Zvachim that kol psulim sheshachtu. Anyone's partial to shech shchitasam ksheira. Shechita ksheira bizarim. Shchita is kosher by a non-kayin, b'noshim by a woman, u'ba'avadim, u'b'tameim, ba'afilu b'kotshei kedoshim, u'b'vad shelo yu tameim, noigim b'basa. Provided. So we learn that from there. Why do I say you learn that from here that I can shech b'di'evet? I learn that from there. Says Hacha over here's the main in Hasam. There is what I did. The Tani sharp psulim, Tani nami tamim mukdashim. In other words, you said all the psulim, so I included that one derech agav. But this Mishnah in Chulin is the real source. Viba Yisema, the converse. Hasam Ika over there in Masechta Kachim Svachim, where it's discussing Kachim, the big Kachim Koi Hacha I did Tani Tamei b'Chulin Tani Nami Tamei b'Mikdashim. Okay, in other words, there's a machloikas, which is the ikka. First shot, ours is the ikka, and that's learned agav there. Second is there's the ikka and agav. Since we learned Tami b'Chulin, we learned Tami b'Kachim. But again, it's not a kasha. Now, this person's tamei with what? This person's tamei with what? Hi tamei de itma b'mai. How did he become tamei? How did he become tamei? Ilema de itme b'meis. If you tell me it's tamei tumas meis, so b'chol cherev amrachmana cherev aru kinchalo. Because we have a special din. Usually tumah goes down in dargis. We're familiar with it. I'll repeat it. If the most severe level of tumah is the mace, he's avi avos tumah. He's the granddaddy of tumah. If a person touches him, it goes down a madrega to an avat tumah. If it's a metal that touches him, it stays the same level. If it's a metal that touches him, it stays the same level. A mace, an avat tumah that touches a kli makes the kli a rishon. The rishon cannot be metama an adam; it can only be metama oichlu mashka. So the next level of Chulin becomes a sheni. It ends there by Chulin. The next level it touches Truma makes it a shlishi. The next level it touches Kachim and makes it a revi. Okay, those are Tumas level. So the one wants to know over here, this person's tummy, right? He's tummy. What kind of tumah did he contract? What kind of tumah did he contract that you're telling me that as long as he doesn't touch, he's okay? My problem is he's not touching, but the sword is, and the sword could go ahead and be metama. God says the Gemara. He can be metama the sakin, v'yozl sakin v'timate lebasar. And so therefore, what did you gain? Good, he didn't touch him. We know he didn't touch him, but he shechted, and the knife itself has the capacity to go ahead and make him tamei. The knife itself has that capacity to make him tamei. Rashi Bavronza says that even if the knife doesn't become an avatoma, even if the knife is just a rishon, if the eye is just a rishon, it can be metama. Derech agav, we wanted to say high matrega. Bottom line is, 1 second, it don't work. Hakol shoichdin, you're telling me this guy's makbet to eat a schul and a tyrus kodesh. It didn't work because his knife is tamei, and the knife is tamei to madrega of av or even a rishon, it'll be metame level sheni. So why did you gain that he didn't touch if the knife touched him? Says the Gemara, you know what it's speaking about? Eladidma b'sheretz. He became tummy to Mesheretz. Guys, if he's tummy to Mesheretz, he's what? He's a Rishon. A Sheretz, one of the 8 shruts in Shmini, is an Abatuma. He touched it as a Rishon. He touches a Rishon, can't be Matama. He can't be Matama Kalim. So he couldn't be Matama the sword, the knife. It's Tahar. He himself could be Matama. If he's a Rishon, he can be Matama. But the sword, that's a sheni, right? The sword doesn't even become a sheni because he can't be Matama Kalim, right? A Rishon can't be Matama Kalim. So it stops right there. It stops right there. V'boy is saying, Aloylam dibim mace. He's tummy to his mace. And therefore, you got a problem. Ukigoin shebodak krumia shelkana v'shachet. Went ahead, he took a reed, a sharp reed, which has a din of a pshute kli eitz, which is not makabel tuma, and he shechted with that. He shechted with that. So memela, you don't have that problem. The Tanya bakol sheichtim, and you can shecht with anything. Bein b'tzur a rock, bein b'schuchas glass, bein b'krumi yishel kana, even a reed. So in other words, even if he's an avatuma, he can't, and he could do matama kalim. That's if it has a shem kli. But if it's pshute kli eitz, he can't be matama. So this. Let's look at what we have. Can you see a chart? Do you see a chart here?
Yep.
Okay. Here's the pshat, guys.
Uh-huh.
Rabbi Bar Ula says, Hakol Sheichtin, we're speaking about a person who's tamei, and he's makbeti is Chulin al Taras HaKodesh. Shchitas and Kshera, right? His shchita is kasha, and b'di'eved, that's speaking about he should not shech kachim. And if he does shech kachim, v'oma bori li shaloi nagati, I know for sure I didn't touch it, shchitas is kashera, except the cheresh reit of a cotton, afilu chulin, they shouldn't, because shem yikalkalu b'shchitasa means what is yikalkalu? Through shehiyah, going ahead, delaying, drasu, pushing down on, or lachlidu, hiding the knife. However, v'kulin sheshachtu, anyone who shechts v'achein roinosai shchitas and kshera is speaking about the Tomim Mikdashim. He said borili, I'm sure I didn't touch it. The lesser command initially, he's not in front of us to ask. And we've held serve, we know at Tomei, it's either Tumas Sheretz or it's Tumas Mace, and it's with a Kli, that's not Makabal Tumah because it's a reed. And that's the first shot in the Mishnah. And Be'ez Hashem, we're going to have 5 more tomorrow.